Hello, everybody. Welcome to this channel. My name's Christiana Davidson. I'm a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and you're very, very welcome here, especially if it's your first time. Please, if I can ask you all just to support me by, clicking that like button, subscribing, and leaving a comment as well. Thank you so much to everyone who has done so, and I do try to respond to all of your feedback. So, thank you. And if you have any thoughts on this topic today or any experience, please do feel free to leave a comment and share with everybody. Um, the topic for today is the two types of narcissistic parent and the battle to be center of the world. This video today is going to look in greater depth at the two different types of narcissistic parent and how they make themselves the center of the world, the center of your world, but they do it in different ways. And then what that means for you. And in a nutshell, it comes down to direct control versus indirect control. In an ideal family setting, children grow up knowing that they are the center of their parents' world. That's how it should be. Why should it be that way? Well, because this demonstrates or models to the child how to ultimately, in adulthood, make themselves the center of their world. And when I say center of the world, it doesn't mean in a narcissistic way, it means in a healthy way, in terms of their needs being important, their boundaries being important, of not being codependent, of putting their beliefs, needs, opinions, holding them with high esteem. So that's the reason that children do need to go through a phase of being the center of their parents' world. Now, as you know, in a narcissistic family system, it's not the case. It's the other way around. The parents or the parent is the center of the world. And the children need to learn not to make themselves or not to want to be the center of their parents' world, because that's something that the parent doesn't like. So let's explore this in a bit more detail. So what are these two types of narcissistic parent? Well, I'm sure you'll have guessed it already. If you're a member of the channel and you've done research into this area yourself in other channels, there is the overt and the covert type of narcissistic parent. Now, the thing is, I find that often these two attract. So you might find that you've had an overt parent and a covert parent because they seem to attract each other. And it'll be obvious why they do as we go through this. So, for both of these, though, both the overt and the covert, there is the underlying drive, as with all narcissists, for attention and admiration. But one is the drive for attention and admiration in an obvious way, and one is the drive for attention and admiration in the hidden, quiet way, the subtle way. So the overt narcissistic parent, either mother or father. I've met mothers, I've met fathers who are overt narcissists. These are your stereotypical narcissistic person. They are the life and soul of the party. They're loud, they're assertive, they exhibit grandiose behavior. It's really clear that they require and expect admiration and validation. If you go to I don't know, a social gathering with your overt narcissistic parent, they will be the one that's working the room. They'll expect to be admired. They'll put great emphasis on what they're wearing. They'll, what can I say? I've forgotten the word, but they're able to network and really kind of run the room and make their presence really known. And everyone is often quite charmed by them. They've got a great sort of energy, quite a positive energy it can feel sometimes. Um, they will step on others if they need to get attention and admiration. And they're prone to overt manipulation and can be very domineering. So overt manipulation might be something like in front of everybody comparing you to somebody else, or calling out um, something you're wearing and embarrassing you in front of everyone. It's that kind of thing. They may be overtly manipulative in their demeaning remarks about others. It's this kind of, it's obvious that they're bullies. They're very domineering, as I said. They often boast about their achievements and demand their children serve as an extension of their grandiosity. They are highly controlling over their family, highly controlling. And they make decisions for their children without considering their views, and they just expect instant compliance, no questioning of their choices. How dare you question anything they decide? They can often be micromanagers and do not allow their children to have their own voice or say. It's their way. They want this for you because they know that this is best for you. And any sign of questioning that is taken as a personal threat. They believe they are superior in looks or in intelligence or in spirituality. And they need others to affirm this, especially their children. They need their children to get high grades, to reflect their own grandiose self-image. They need their children to be in the cool crowd. They need them to be the star of the show. They thrive being the center of attention in social and work situations. And family members are there to support, enhance, and reflect their public image. So what's the impact of this upon children? Well, there is so much pressure to perform and achieve. The children may struggle with confidence and imposter syndrome. These grand expectations on them or grand idealizations of them can lead to a sense of not believing you can live up to that. And quite often you can't because you're not given the skills. There's also a sense of not having much confidence in yourself to manage your life because you've been micromanaged. You've been robbed of your power, in other words, your self-empowerment. You may find that you're living your life as an adult still trying to reflect well in public for mum or dad with the career you've chosen, with the partner, with the lifestyle, all of that kind of thing. And you might find these parents are the ones that will, plaster social media with amazing pictures of their children's achievements and, who they've married, who they're mixing with, all the rest of it. Okay, moving on to the covert parent now. So once again, this is a narcissist, I have to remind you. That's one type of narcissistic parent. Now we've got the covert narcissist parent. And covert is hidden. So, I mean, this is really tough on children. You've got a hidden narcissistic parent here. So when something's hidden, you have to go through a process of ultimately unhiding it. of having it come out into the open. And that's where a lot of clients come to me. They're like, oh my goodness, I've just recently realized my parent is a narcissist, or I think my parent is a narcissist, or I think my partner is a covert narcissist. So these types, they display their narcissism, they do display it, but in a hidden, hard to detect way. You'll all know Sam Vaknin, I think, Professor Sam Vaknin. He describes the covert narcissist as a failed narcissist, a failed overt narcissist. So these covert narcissists dream of being overt, the center of the show, the one who's working the room, full of confidence, charisma, getting lots of attention and grandiosity. These covert ones are the ones that weren't able to cut it in the real world as an overt narcissist. So they turn to being the covert type. They know that they're unable to pull that off. They're often seen as shy, humble, modest, not liking the limelight. Or let me let you in on a secret. They do really. However, beneath this exterior, this kind of, what can we say, little innocent, sort of non-threatening person, there's a deep-seated entitlement and self-centeredness. There's a rage. There is a rage there. And this is what people talk about when they see it in the eyes of the covert narcissist. It's like a momentary sort of window opens to what's within, and the eyes change to this kind of blackened, rageful look. And their rage is at not being able to be the star of the show or have others see their amazingness, their superiority. They manipulate and control, not by domineering and stamping down on others, but through guilt and passive aggressiveness. They crave admiration and attention secretly for all the sacrifices and hardships they've endured. So there's the guilt bit. And they'll often set up their children by feeding them this martyr story, this martyr complex, as it's called. They demand that others see them as selfless. And they're very, very skilled at manipulating things to make it appear this way. So you'll often hear the covert narcissistic mother just reminding everybody of the sacrifices she's made. You know, if you call her out on something, you might get something like, oh, after all I've done, oh, after all that, all the times I did this for you, and it's never enough, is it? There we have that martyr complex. Excuse me. The way that the covert narcissistic parent controls is through your emotions. They control your emotions rather than direct commands and sort of an apathy that the overt has. It's kind of, they're not too bothered about your feelings. They're just bothered about your compliance. The covert is more interested in getting you to do things sort of off your own free will, but really they've manipulated you to do that behind the scenes via guilt. The covert narcissistic parent's mask is to be in control without others seeing it, without you seeing it. It's a hidden dominance, and that's why it's so infuriating for people and why they can't often feel like they can't break free. If the covert narcissistic parent presents as a victim, then they can manipulate and coerce others to do what they want out of sympathy and empathy. But it's also deniable too. They can deny it. They need their children to validate their unseen greatness, and you'll be praised if you do such a thing. They need you to believe in the tale of them being the victim and thus not having been able to shine. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough at the moment. Guilt is used to create obligation and servitude for life. They need their children to emotionally regulate them. And that's a difference with the overt as well. You know, the overt finds it quite annoying if you're trying to emotionally regulate them. They don't want that. They don't want that emotionality. The covert does. The covert is all about emotions and meddling into them, and using them for their own benefit. The impact of the covert narcissistic parent upon children, well, I mean, you just don't know where the boundaries are. You don't know, you're not able to assert healthy boundaries around yourself and say no without feeling guilty. And that's the thing. Guilt is going to run your life if you've been the child of a covert narcissistic parent. Guilt about making yourself center of your world. Guilt about putting your needs first. Guilt about wanting to follow a certain career path, or even guilt about being seen and going for the life you want. You'll be plagued by doubts about your own intentions. You may also find that you're quite uncertain about who you really are, what you do like, what you don't, because you've been manipulated to tune in to the narcissistic parent. So you've come to learn through them what you should and shouldn't like, or who they see you as. Okay, so the first parent, the overt parent, they are the center of their world, and therefore they must assert themselves as the center of yours too. And they do this by completely disempowering you, and then quite often they'll shame you for that disempowerment. You know, why are you such a failure? Why weren't you able to do this? You know, you were never given the skills, but they're shaming you for not being as grand as they are. And they need to keep that dynamic somehow. They want you to be a grandiose reflection in public, but then privately they need you to be beneath them, under their control. They need to give you permission to be a certain grandiose reflection of them. You can't just be whatever you want, in other words. The covert parents, they are the center of their world too, but they also need you to be the center of their world. They need to live vicariously through you, to live out their failed overt narcissism through you. In other words, the covert parent needs you to be the overt reflection of them in order to feel in order to meet that need for admiration and attention that they've never been able to get. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if it works quite for the overt. In one sense, I guess it would, that the overt parent would need you to be more covert, more of more in need of somebody to take charge, if that makes sense. So the overt parent is directly in control. The covert parent is indirectly in control. And it's really, really, completely dysfunctional, this whole thing, because in healthy families, like I said at the start, they center around the children, and the children learn how to put themselves at the center of their own worlds and put their own needs first by this happening. In narcissistic families, they learn that this is selfish and self-seeking and prideful. And so the center of the child's world remains with mum and dad for life. Now, you know that at the start of life, of course, the parent is meant to be the center of the child's world, and vice versa. However, at some point, the separation needs to begin, where the child then is able to put themselves at the center of their world, no longer mum or dad. That's the separation that needs to happen. And this is where the healing lies. This is the work I do with clients using hypnotherapy, enacting this healthy separation. You've got to become and make yourself the center of your own world at long last. And you have to face all the fears, all the feelings that will come up of being selfish, self-centered, even narcissistic. What we also need to be aware of, however, is that, we need to break the cycle here. And the cycle is passed down. And how it's passed down is through these traits, through these narcissistic traits. So we've got to stop needing to be the center of other people's worlds and expecting that to be in relationships, which is narcissistic. We've also got to stop trying to make other people the center of our worlds if we're more codependent. We need to stop using other people to meet our self-esteem needs. We've got to stop that, and we've got to really be honest with ourselves here, because it's all very well, pointing the finger at our parents and all the rest of it. No contact's not enough here. We've got to look at a long, hard look at ourselves here and see, oh my goodness, I pointed the finger at them, but I'm using people too. This is part of the healing that's probably the hardest in some ways. So we've got to change from what we learned growing up, which is, how can I find somebody else to control and manipulate so that I can get my needs met? How can I take from the world to get my needs met, to how can I be of great service to the world using my talents and skills? And instead of searching for another person to be the center of my world, I have to find my purpose, which is my way of being of service. That has to become the center of my world. And then everything else falls rightly into place. So it's a different mentality. In the world at the moment, a lot of people do have this belief that I can just find this one other person, to be the center of my world, and for me to be the center of theirs, then everything's going to be okay. Well, no, that's perpetuating this system. We've got to stop that. We've got to find out who we are, how we can best be of service in the world, doing something that fills us with joy. It may not be easy, but it's something that can be that center that we're all looking for, that purpose. So I hope that helps you, everybody. Do leave your comments. I've also got a couple of events coming up. There's one this Sunday on the chaos of the narcissistic family system. I'll leave a link in the bio below. It's only $25, I think. It's an hour and 15 minutes, and it will give you some more insight into this chaotic world that children are brought up in. And then the following week, there's one on compulsive eating or binge eating, which is quite often a means of coping with the lack of emotional connection in childhood. Okay, everybody. I shall see you again soon. Take care. Bye now.